Ooh, very fancy graphics. This must mean it's a JD iRacing video. And it is! And of course, because we're at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, I just had to do something with slots. It was either that or poker chips. So today we're racing in IndyCar. Right now I'm going out basically, I'm going out for a practice lap on this one. Sorry, I had to actually think what point, because this is going to be a long video. And Las Vegas is a 1.5 mile banked oval. And IndyCar doesn't really race at these anymore. But because, and it's mainly just because of the high rates of speeds. You're doing about 220 miles an hour around here, flat out all four corners. And it's a little bit tight. And really the last time they raced here was Dan Weldon's unfortunate race. So it's kind of why. But you see, this guy's not really paying attention. I'm coming up on him quick. I'm not really paying attention too much. I get into the wall and I nick him and I'm spinning out and into the wall, and well, that's the end of that practice. Well, let's hope the rest of the race goes a little bit better. So now I'm going out on my qualifying. And qualifying strategy is a little bit different. In that you actually have a qualifying trim as well as race trim for this race. It's a fixed setup, so everyone has the same, but you can add a few different things. See me almost spin out and burn out there as I'm coming out. Basically, the qualifying trim has you at about 2 gallons worth of fuel, basically the equivalent of about 4 or 5 laps. That way you can get as much speed as you can. I think they might even do a little bit of aero tweaking as well, just to make the car as fast as possible. So I'm going to go up high on the banking for the opening lap, just to try and get as much speed here. We get the green flag for my qualifying. Again, I've got 2 laps, so basically I've just got to try and get it as quick as possible. For this race, starting position is very key. So now I'm going to start going lower on the track. I found at this track, if you go as far to the inside as you can, around the corners and particularly around the tri-oval entry part, you can get a lot of speed. A good time around here, if you're right at about the 25-second mark, you're doing pretty decently. And there we go. We get a 24.8, a phenomenal time. Now I know that because this is a replay, they're not showing the other people's times or anything, but it was actually pretty close. I basically had gotten pole by about 0.004 seconds. I think I had I can't really see the graphics on the tiny editor screen there, but I had gotten I think it was an 837. Ooh, we're getting really fancy with the camera work now. I figured out how to use some of the camera tools in iRacing. So, if you're unfamiliar with IndyCar, I know I talked a little bit about it in that Daytona race, but that was racing an old version of this car. This is the current version, based on the 2018 IndyCar. Basically, Dallara makes a spec chassis. Everyone gets the exact same chassis. They cannot do anything different to it. And so it's unlike Formula 1, where Formula 1, it's all bespoke cars made by the manufacturers. IndyCar, everything is made by Dallara. The only difference, though, is the drivetrain. There are 2 engine suppliers in IndyCar. There's Honda and there's Chevrolet. iRacing doesn't really do anything different for Chevy or Honda. They're all the same car. But I'm an American, and shamelessly so. So I've of course got Chevy badges on mine. Now this race, because I'm in pole, I have 2 advantages. The first is clean air, and the second is I control the start. So in controlling the start, I can really position myself to having the best possible position. My strategy in this, now I did a practice before this, where I was battling with a guy and just kind of feeling it out. And I found if you stick it to the bottom, they have a really, really difficult time getting around you. Partly because, as some Formula 1 fans know, and some NASCAR fans nowadays know the term dirty air, well, that's going to play a huge part in this race because, you know, you're going 220 miles an hour, there's going to be a hell of a wake coming off these cars. So the pace car goes in, and we ready up to go green. And we get the green flag, and we are off. And you see I've got a huge jump on the next guys there, and it's mainly just because I can react. Well, I mean, basically it's just the green flag is reacting on my foot. But they have to react to me, which means they've got about a 0.2 second delay to when they see me go. So I position myself, stick myself to the bottom line here, and I set up another cool camera here. Now you see some drivers going down on the apron. Now, it is viable to get down there, but it is treacherous. If you just get one tire on it, you don't get quite everything, and you don't square it quite up on as the banking changes, your car is going to spin out. I did that a few times in practice, just testing things out, and while you can keep it out of the wall sometimes, you're pretty much your race is done at that point. That's what happened to that guy. I don't want to show his just single spin there. For some reason, it didn't throw a caution for it. I'm actually really thankful for that. But yeah, he basically did exactly what I said. Got down on the apron and spun. Now let's talk about these cars in particular, because you notice that the Formula chassis that these GLR chassis are, they've got a front wing and a rear wing, but a very, very small one. They've only got a really slight angle, and it's mainly because, you know, they get a little bit of downforce, particularly on the front tires. That's kind of where it's best, just to kind of get it to turn around the track. The rear wing almost has a deflection angle of like 0, so it's pretty. It's almost there for show and just a little bit of stability. The other thing is that if you watch IndyCar regularly, you'll notice that the aero packages change on the car. They've got their road... Now, because it's IndyCar races on road courses as well as on ovals, this is their oval variants where they've got a small wing on the front and rear. At road courses and street circuits, they get a more substantial aero package just to help them get downforce and get around the corners, because they're not getting as high a top speed as they would here. Here you're getting probably a top speed in race trim and in the draft 225, 226 miles an hour. It is insane. This is the fastest oval racing in America, at least as far as main series go. And what's interesting is with Las Vegas in particular, they are getting such high top speed because of the banking and the relative smoothness of the track. But they don't race here anymore because there was a catastrophic crash back in, I believe it was 2011. I'm actually going to look this up while I'm recording this because I don't remember. But what happened was, you know, the drivers were racing around here. They were actually a little bit nervous around this. It's almost akin to Talladega back when it opened. But yeah, it was October 16th, 2011. That was when Dan Wilton passed, and it was a terrible crash going into turn 1. And it was just too many cars on the track, very high speed, and just the smallest of errors causing a 15-car pileup, and several of them burst into flames. Now, IndyCar doesn't officially say that that race is the reason they don't go back to Vegas, but it doesn't take a detective to figure out. Oh, you saw me wiggle there. I got down a little bit too close to the apron and had to check up just a little bit. You see the Ford there getting really close, trying to take me on the outside, seeing that he's got that speed differential. I've just got to hold on to this car. Now back to it, Dan Logan's crash. Oh, actually the whole crash. In reality, it is the reason that they don't go back there. Basically, Las Vegas is just a plaything for NASCAR now, not so much IndyCar. Although IndyCar does race at other various tracks. I don't know if they do any more mile and a half, someone in the comments can tell me. But they also race road courses and street circuits as well as ovals. So it's still a very versatile car and a very versatile series. It's very fun to race because the speeds are so quick. Now you see they're jockeying for position, and at this point in the stint, the cars behind me are dealing with dirty air more and more, particularly out of turn 4. Now, out of turn 4, their cars basically get a bit tight as they're coming out, and so they're not quite able to turn, and so they have to lift. Now, part of the reason that they're so tight through that section is it is a very fast corner. They're carrying a ton of speed. I remember in one of the earlier races that I did just sort of practicing this, I was getting up to 225, 226 coming out of that corner, and I had to lift because I would have just gone right into the wall. But for me, because I'm in the front, I've got clean air ahead of me. I don't have to deal with that. I can stick it to the bottom. And the other thing is my car is not getting tight, even with tire wear. But strategy is going to play into this race. We have about enough fuel for about 50 laps. This is a 75 lap race, which means I'm going to have to pit at least once. And I'm thinking, okay, how exactly am I going to do my green flag pit stops if this stays green? I've had at least one race that went all green the entire way. And so that's playing in the back of my mind. Now you see the Ford coming up to me. Now Ford is not an actual manufacturer in IndyCar, but to be honest, it'd be kind of cool if they did. Ford is predominantly a NASCAR. He's just going with a sort of, almost looks like a GT style paint scheme there. I'm of course in the Marm's Chicken Farm and GLR Esports Chevrolet here, sponsored also by Chick-fil-A, not an actual sponsor. I just really like their chicken sandwiches. They're delicious. But it also seemed like an appropriate chicken sponsor. Now back in third place, we got that purple and green car. Basically, this front pack is going to be in the race, trying to get me to mess up for pretty much the entire thing. And then you've got a Max Verstappen wannabe there in third place. He's got a Red Bull. I'm guessing it's a Honda, given I think Red Bull races in Honda. I actually don't know what I think Red Bull races Honda engines in F1. Again, someone can correct me. But you see, I'm just sticking to that bottom line. There's about maybe half a car width beyond the white line. That's just mainly for safety reasons. I'm watching my rearview mirror, taking a look and seeing where these cars are, where they're getting runs, and forcing them to go up high. And it's just simply the strategy that I'm running. Stick it to the bottom. Don't let them get a chance of trying to pass me. Ooh, and you see the Max Verstappen wannabe and the purple and green car, who looks very much like Rockley's car. Shout out to him. It looks like his McGann that he sometimes runs. They're really battling it out. It's quite dicey back there. All those cars jockeying for position. And it's pretty much us in this front pack of 4 that seem to be vying for the lead. The back few cars there seem to have fallen back. I don't know quite if they have the draft or not. But we actually get ourselves a caution. Now what's cool about these cars is they actually do light up on the steering wheel when caution comes out. See the yellow arrows there. It's a neat feature. So I just ease off the gas, breathe a bit, and I'm doing the math. If I go into the pits now, I might have enough fuel to get to the end. It's going to be tight, because right now it's right at about 52 laps to go. And I mean, certainly once we get racing, it's going to be a little bit higher. Or I guess a little bit lower. It might be a little bit closer to my window, but I decide, oh, you know what, I'm going to go in and pit. And everyone behind me follows in suit. Now, I do have a pit limiter on this thing, so I'm doing 50 miles an hour. That is the speed limit. Cannot go faster, or else you'll get a penalty. I am going for 4 tires and fuel, and I'm basically going to top this thing off so that way I can make it to the end. Here we go, we pull into the pits, and I actually get it right in there. I actually stopped a little bit early. You see the driver behind me actually had a little bit of a mistake. And I'm off the Max Verstappen wannabe. He's going to try and beat me off the line, but no, he does not. I maintain first place. Or do I? Because one car actually stayed out. And we'll go into that in a little bit, but let's actually see what happened in that race. So, fancy graphics. Always gotta love them. Now these two drivers, they're towards the back. I believe it was 7th and 8th place. They're battling it out, and watch the white car. Now I know we're focused on the pink car here, but the white car gets a little bit wiggly. Ooh, and he takes out. Takes out the side pod on that car. Props to him locking it down, staying at the top end of the track. Is able to get the thing rolling. Doesn't look like there's too much damage, at least to the wheels. So let's watch Wiggly here. Wiggly can't even tell what his livery is, but he gets Wiggly and really clobbers him. Loses the front wing. The front wing comes back, gets clipped from behind by the Monster Energy car. Let's watch from his perspective and see all this go on. So you see him getting Wiggly there. Goes up into the wall and collects him. These two cars avoid it, but he just can't, and nails his front left. And just snaps the suspension. And that is that's just heartbreaking. But as I was saying, there was a car that stayed out in front of me. And this is Mr. Wise. I do not know what his first name is, but his last name is Wise, and, well, let's see if he's making a wise decision staying out. Now, why is he staying out? I can't quite, for the life of me, figure it out. This was an opportune moment, but maybe he's hoping for another caution. Maybe he's hoping just to stay in the lead. I genuinely don't know. Because, with at least the strategy, I mean, everyone went in with the exception of him. But he goes into the pits. Okay. So I'm back in the lead. My guess is he was actually probably doing the math, realized he couldn't get to the end of the race without refueling, so he stretched it out a bit. That's at least my guess. But with him going into the pits, the pace car lights are off, and that means we will go green next time by. Now I'd also like to do a shout out to the GT5 Riders drivers. They had a phenomenal race today. We were doing a 3 hours endurance race in GT7 around Trial Mountain, which is a tough track, one of the new ones that they added in, so really nice track there. And YouTube user by the name of PG Bagria, I think is how you pronounce his name, has the entire race on there. They were doing commentary. If you speak German, which I do not, he has the full commentary there. It was actually really good coverage. Now the pace car is going in, and we ready up, and we get the green flag, and I am off. Get a pretty good jump. Now, something you may notice here is that IndyCar was restarting single file. Now that's different than in NASCAR. NASCAR, you'd ready up and you'd do two wide. It's partly for safety reasons, but just because, you know, these cars are a little sensitive on the sides. In NASCAR, you can bump fenders. These things you cannot, because it will send you up into the air if you nick a tire at a close enough speed. I've seen it happen. So the Max Verstappen wanted to be on his clean tires, is confident. He's going to try and see if he can get around me. But I am just sticking it to the inside line, refusing to relinquish that just superior line in racing. Now, at some other courses, this would not be the fastest way around, and certainly in NASCAR, it is not, because of how low downforce those cars are. They need the room. These things have high enough downforce that you can stick it down on that line just off the apron and be able to maintain speed and pace and keep the other cars off you and weaponize your dirty air to try and keep them from getting too close to you, especially off those corners. Now you see my shifting there. I am currently in 5th gear. There are 6 gears in total. It's a 6-speed sequential gearbox in these cars. And I found that at the current gear ratio, in draft, 6th gear is opportune, but in flat-out racing, 5th gear is. Now, something else that I was doing was also playing with my gearing while I was on the pace lap. I was actually throwing my car into 6th gear and at fuel map 8. Yes, these cars actually do have fuel mapping. They have settings 1 through 8, 8 being the leanest and the 1 of course being the most aggressive. If you want fuel save, that's how you can definitely do it around an oval. Basically lowers the I'm guessing it lowers the amount of fuel in the fuel mixture going into the engine, and what it does is it drops you by a few RPM, but it does help you in the long run. Now, around this track and with my current fuel, I am not planning on messing with the fuel map too much. I might throw it into 2 or 3 towards the latter end of the race if it gets tight, because right now I'm a little concerned about my fuel. It's right on the edge. Basically, if we go green the entire way, I might not win this one. And so I'm weighing that. I'm keeping track of it, but I know that the other guys behind me have the same sort of fuel situation. The only difference is, though, by being behind me, they're not having to punch through the air on the straights at least, and so they're able to conserve fuel a little bit that way, either by lifting or just simply being in a higher gear. The only problem is that they are scrubbing their tires a little bit more because they are getting so tight. They're getting a lot of understeer off those corners. So things can be a little bit dicey. Now, something you may also notice is I have figured out how to get rid of the iRacing watermark. I actually messed with the UI a little bit, got it to be fairly transparent, so now it actually looks almost like a broadcast. I'm quite pleased with how this is turning out. And I know that I was out for about a month and a half or so. I was doing some racing, did some racing at Watkins Glen, Daytona. The races were fun and eventful, but I just didn't have the energy to edit the videos together. These do take a lot of work, and especially this one being in excess of probably close to 50 minutes. This was a long race, and I'm liking these longer races, so I'm going to be intermittent in releasing these. You see Verstappen try and get into the draft again. You notice he's also taking a higher line, trying to stay in clean air. Now, two things about my line are working against the Verstappen guy. If he's right behind me, he gets dirty air, can't keep speed in the corner, drifts up. If he races higher, he has to go the long way around the track. I'm taking the shortest possible line around here. And basically, because of the way this track is, the aero package, and the speeds that we're carrying through these corners, he cannot get past me. Now I'm watching in my rearview mirror, I'm seeing where he is. I'm also looking at my two side mirrors, which do have enough of an angle to be able to see on either side. And I'm watching him as he's trying to figure out a way to get around me. Now props to him for being clean. Never had any contact so far. And it's just a testament to some of the drivers in this game where they can be very, very clean. Alright, well, we're doing 220 miles an hour. There is so little room for error. Now you see, I'm actually going up a little bit higher on the track. I know my tires are getting a little bit worn. They were at about 80% on my front right at the end of that stint. Now it should be okay through to the end of the race. I'm kind of doing all this math in my head. What I'm also doing is going wide a bit on the exits of the corners to really kind of mess with the dirty air being cast on the cars behind me. I'm mainly doing that out of turn 4. I'm keeping it tight around turn 1 and 2, but around turn 3, I'm actually really out of turn 4, you'll see that I'll go a little bit wide. It's just to make it a little easier on the car, a little easier on me, and I see that he's got a decent gap, but we have ourselves yet another caution. Whew. Well, here's an opportunity for me. Now, it is Vegas. And I know I opened up with the slots there. When it's Vegas, you know, sometimes you have an opportunity to gamble it. And if you gamble, and you gamble right, you could win big. So what I'm doing is I'm doing the math in my head. Because of this caution, I'm throwing my car in a fuel map 8, I'm throwing it into 6th gear, I am basically just coasting around this track right now. I can make it on fuel. So what I'm doing is I'm taking out a variable. If I mess up my pit, they could get past me. But because I'm not going into the pits, and I think I have enough grip in my tires, I should be able to make it. So everyone goes into the pits there, except for our little friend, Mr. Wise. There he is. Now I wonder what he's doing as far as his strategy, but I doubt he's going to be able to take my spot. But let's take a look back and see what happened here. See these three cars battling. I believe this was for 6th, 7th, and 8th. And they both go down to the apron. Black car here just loses it. That's the treacherousness of going down the apron. Somehow the car behind him managed it. But he did not. Had a hard hit. And, oop, almost hit the pace car. That's what a little bit of situational awareness would do for you. But let's watch on board with him. Now he's watching his rearview mirror, gets down on the apron, almost screws it up and just loses the back end and goes into the wall. That's the end of the race for him. His car is done. Good situational awareness here, seeing the car that was going up on him, locking it down, but bad situational awareness because of the pace car. Well, I think it's about time that we take a bit of word from our sponsors. We will be right back. Nestled by the waters of Swansea, in the humble and quiet hillsides lay the finest chickens in all of Wales, freely roaming the countryside of this lovely Welsh coast, fed the finest grains to ensure the highest quality, always tended to with the utmost care, and brought fresh to your dinner table. We make sure nothing but the best is provided for your family. We pride ourselves with our unmatched quality, and you'll find the best chickens come from Mom's Chicken Farm. We feed ours the best, so you can feed yours the best. Mom's Chicken Farm, official sponsor of GLR Esports. Thanks, Mom's Chicken Farm. Not an actual sponsor. And yes, I am having way too much fun with those. Hopefully my lackluster British accent didn't offend some of my friends, but they'll probably find it really funny. I was originally going to have my brother Marmite do that. He's got a good Welsh accent, but he's been busy, now has COVID, is going to Egypt. Things are crazy with him, so he was unfortunately not able to do the recording for that, so I did my best. Hopefully it wasn't too terrible. But yes, I do have way too much fun with this. But I thought, you know, it's IndyCar. IndyCar needs a little bit more sophistication than the ragtag, redneck, good old boy kind of attitude of NASCAR. So now I have 2 ads that I can run. It's like YouTube, you can see the same ad for the same thing twice. But mine, you can actually skip if you're really insensitive and mean. Please don't skip my ads. We don't even get revenue from them. Well, the pace car is going in, and we are green again at Las Vegas. You see, I've got a huge jump on the cars behind me. They've actually got a battle. They were pushing up the track there. That was a little bit risky. But I've got now about a 3/4 of a second lead on the cars behind me. Now, they still do have the slipstream off my car, and they're going to sort of organize up and be able to reel me back in, but this does give me a little bit of breathing room. Now you see the Max Verstappen wannabe gets around that red car. I'm guessing it's a Ferrari, maybe? Who knows? I didn't really check all the liveries of these cars, but he is now slotting in and trying to reel me back in hopes of being able to pass me. Now I am taking a bit wider lines right now because I'm not in danger of being passed, but I will again stick it to the bottom now that he is firmly in my draft. He is going to get an almighty run. Now, as I showed in the Daytona race, you basically, the best way to pass in these, to actually get a decent run, is you want to be about like 2 or 3 tenths of a second behind, slot in behind, and just gun it, and at the last possible second, go around the car. But because of how short the straightaways are here, he's not able to get enough of a run, and thus cannot get around me, because once he gets around the corners, I have the advantage. Now I am going a little bit up on the course, because I'm seeing where he's driving. I'm trying to force him as far wide as I can. I'm trying to basically control where his driving line is. That's really some of the key in racing. If you can't go all out on speed, is play little bits of mind games with the drivers behind you. Now, at road courses, it's harder to do in that if there is a difference in pace between the two drivers, one guy can just carry on. But if there is a close enough speed, you can start playing around with how you do corner entries and stuff like that. Around ovals, it is so hard to get a good jump on the drivers around you that you basically have no choice but to sort of play these kind of games. Now, the thing that you should note is that the cars behind me have 20 lap newer tires than I do. And it just shows you how important clean air is around these kind of tracks, because even with the tire difference, he can't get past me. Now you see the top 5 there have all sort of bunched up. In the back here we had the Verstappen wannabe, the Ford, the Rockley wannabe, and of course it looks like a Hendrix car back there. I can't see the blue and red car that clearly. Now if you're wondering, Rockley is just one of my pup guys. But yeah. I know I mentioned it earlier, but that's who that is. Verstappen, of course, is Max Verstappen. I don't know if he's leading in Formula 1 right now, but I know he was the 2021 champion after a controversial ending as the safety car issues and whatnot. IndyCar even has its own bit of drama, so no motorsports is perfect. But we're seeing that my gamble might actually pay off. That despite having a tire deficit on the cars behind me, I have the advantage of clean air and running this low line. And either they're going to fight each other or not get around me. That's pretty much their only options. And my tires are not really giving way. Ooh, as I get really close to the line there, you saw me check up there on my wheel there. That was a little dicey. But you see that tires aren't really that important, it's the fuel. And right now, I know I've got about 2 extra laps of fuel right now. I can make it to the end. Now the drivers behind me, because they've pitted, most likely have enough fuel to the end as well. They've already spec'd them out. So I doubt there's going to be any drama as far as fueling goes. I am watching my fuel. I am making sure that I can make it to the end, but I'm pretty certain that I've got enough fuel to make it to the end of the race. I am going to hold on to this lead for dear life. Now you see I'm starting to play with the dirty air behind me. I go up into that second lane, but I immediately come back down. It's because I'm watching this Ford and the Verstappen guy start to battle a little bit. They're jockeying for position, they're trying to get around each other. I mean, silver is always better than bronze. And because gold is seemingly out of their reach because he is sticking it to that white line, there ain't nothing he can do. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going wide out of that corner because I know that they just don't have to run on me. So I'm playing with that dirty air. I'm also keeping my tires from scrubbing by not putting as much of a load in them coming out of that corner as well, because you really do have to crank on the wheel as you're coming out of those corners. The car really does want it to lift up. So by doing that, I'm actually saving my tires a little bit better than I would otherwise. Now, it's not really going to be a huge deal. It's just basically ensuring that I'm not going to, crash out or something like that because I just drove the tires too hard. Now, tire wear in IndyCar is not quite as substantial as it is in NASCAR. I mean, the lap times that I'm doing right now are still in the low 25s. I'm doing 25.3s, 25.2s, stuff like that. Where at, top tires with a full fuel tank, you can get down to about the 25 evens. If you really do try and push it, you can get down to 24.9s, 24.8s. Especially if you've got less fuel in the tank, which means less weight. I mean, these cars are not really all that heavy. They're about 750, 760 kilograms, give or take, without the driver. Put that into perspective, NASCAR is easily twice that. Another like 3,800 pounds or 3,500 pounds, something like that. Something ridiculous. So that's 1,700 kilograms, something like that. And now you see the Max Verstappen guy is getting really close there. We almost touched tires there. I know at one point we did have a little bit of contact. And it was so slight that iRacing warned us, but didn't give us an X, which is nice. Ooh! And you see the purple car there get a little bit loose, and he loses it. Getting onto the apron. Surprisingly, no caution. So we keep racing. Now, I want to think I went back and looked at the replay there. He did manage to keep it out of the wall, but heartbreak there. So now there's really only 2 cars vying for the lead. Well, sort of. It's just me and Max Verstappen. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th are still ways back. Now with Max, they're not drafting behind me, and probably just to save his tires and make it a little easier to drive, he is losing time to the field behind us because they're getting our slip. They're getting a bit faster lap times because they don't have quite the air resistance, particularly on the straights. They're able to get up to the highest speeds. Well, we're topping out about 220, 221 going into these corners. They're doing 225, 226. That speed difference is huge. Now, if you're wondering about these engines, they are racing in turbocharged V6 engines. I believe they have a dual turbo installed, so they're actually fairly small engines, but they're producing anywhere between 500 to 700 horsepower. Now, the reason why the power difference is they actually control power a little differently. In NASCAR, they control it by the air intake. Now, current NASCAR only does the I think it's a 670 package, so 670 horsepower with the exception of at super speedways where they have a restrictor plate which reduces the power down to like under 500. In these, they actually control it based on the boost pressure that they can run. So around ovals, they actually lower the weight. Now, we got the white flag, so it's 1 lap to go now. But yeah, the boost pressure is actually lowered around ovals. It gives them, they string out the gears a little bit to get the top speed, but they don't quite have the acceleration because they don't need it. But around road courses, they do. Now we come around the final turn, and we take the victory. And oh, there's a car that's spinning just after the checkered flag. Manages to keep it out of the wall. Good on him for that. But whew, what a race! Now we take a cool down lap here. Huge relief. These guys actually right up on me. They were very, very kind. Gave me a bunch of compliments as far as my driving and stuff like that. a good group of guys here. So we got to burn the house down here. So drop the clutch and do a little bit of a burnout. These cars are hard to kind of do a burnout on the banked part of the tri-oval. So yeah, just try and do donuts. I realized, nah, it ain't working. Let's do it on the flat part here on the Pennzoil. There we go. Those are some proper donuts. Burn it down. Hell yeah. So this is actually my first win in IndyCar, and that was a good race. No, I want to thank you for sticking with me through the whole race. Please like, subscribe, comment, share, all the YouTubey things. And we also do racing. We've got our Discord invite down in the description. Feel free to join us. We do racing in GT7, we do racing in ACC, I do racing in iRacing because my friends don't want to play with me. And we are also open to any other things, so if you want to have a good time, good laugh, and some good Guinness, feel free to join us. But I think that will be it. I'm going to sign off. I've been sitting in my rig too long, both for editing and for racing, after doing a 3-hour race and 2 hours of editing and nearly an hour of recording. I'm tired. So I will bid thee adieu. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.